Welcome to Snippets of Wisdom with your host, Mike Carell and Dr. Michael J. Murphy. Snippets of Wisdom is the boomer's gift to the next generation and to the world at large. Dr. Michael J. Murphy and Coach Mike Carell are experienced psychotherapists, writers, and healers who find the greatest satisfaction in sharing the benefits of a lifetime of struggle and learning. Coach Mike has spent decades spreading deep wisdom and supporting youth through the juvenile justice system. Dr. Michael has directed mental health services at many correctional centers and testified in countless trials as an expert in sex-related issues and mental illness. And he was one of the 500,000 humans at Woodstock. So now, please welcome the hosts of Snippets of Wisdom.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Murphy, and welcome to Snippets of Wisdom, the podcast where we tap into ancient and current wisdom together through the stories and the science to help people live their best life. I'm Dr. Michael Murphy, forensic psychologist and trauma specialist, and with me is my co-host and coach, Mike Carell. Coach Mike?
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. I'm Coach Mike. I'm an integrative life coach and certified hypnotherapist. Today, we're diving into a complex and often misunderstood topic, the effects of male trauma. We'll explore how negative early life experiences can shape men's emotional and behavioral lives. We'll discuss what makes trauma in men unique and bring you evidence-based approaches to healing.
Before we can get into and understand trauma, we need to define exactly and as precisely as possible just what trauma is. And that's a pretty broad and complex issue that we'll spend a good deal of time talking about today, because we really want to define for ourselves and for you exactly what trauma is and what it is not. So we need to understand that trauma in the broadest sense is any experience that overwhelms our experience and our ability to cope. So when we have an experience that just doesn't make sense to us and seems to be something that's so improbable that it just should not be existing, then we can perhaps describe that as trauma. It's an experience that we're just not able to process into long-term memory in a way that is stable and sufficient for us. So that can take the form of early trauma in childhood. It can take the form of war-related experiences. It can take the form of some kind of sudden experience like an auto accident or something like that, where a physical event occurs that we are just not able to integrate and understand as being something that we think should be happening. And that is the broadest definition of trauma. And one of the things that we're going to focus on today is the ways that is perhaps more likely to occur and the way that it is more specifically processed by males and men, boys and men. So we're going to look at that today, and we're going to hopefully come to a much clearer understanding of what it is and what it isn't, and how we can help each other to recover from those kinds of experiences. Coach Mike?
So obviously the research is clear that adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are linked to a range of later life problems. The CDC, Kaiser ACE study, and other studies identified 10 categories of childhood trauma, including physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. We'll be talking more about that in just a few minutes, but we'll first take a break, so stay with us and we'll delve into it, beginning with Dr. Murphy. Thanks.
Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Okay, one of the things we want to talk about is how trauma can be different for males and females. And today we're going to focus on male trauma. So we're trying to define what trauma is, and trauma is, once again, trauma is any experience that we human beings may experience as overwhelming. It's completely overwhelming to our nervous system. So it's important to understand that trauma is a physical experience. It's something that we experience in our nervous system and that our nervous system experiences as overwhelming, just something that should not be happening. And therefore, your nervous system and your cognitive processing, your brain is just not able to process the experience as real. So that is the nature of trauma. And there's some ways that boys experience these kinds of unpleasant events in a different way. You know, one of the things is that boys, as you well know, are often taught to be tough and to be hard and to try to not express their sadness and grief in ways that they may experience as humiliating. So therefore, not only is the traumatic experience painful, it also can be something that is denied or minimized and is not adequately processed. And that's where the trauma part comes in, and the fact that the trauma really appears to remain in the mental processing of the person in a way that is hard to change and hard to remove. So,
Dr. Murphy, is it true then that boys who experience these kinds of traumas are at higher risk for depression, anxiety, and substance abuse?
Absolutely, and I think that's a great insight. You know, one of the things that we really need to understand is that trauma is a form of anxiety. So it's a way that the nervous system is elevated, and we feel a negative state of fear that seems to endure over a long period of time. So one of the things that is very tempting in those situations is for a person to want to do something or ingest something that will provide some relief to that feeling of anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
And whether it's alcohol or marijuana or an opioid or a tranquilizing medication of some kind, those are extremely tempting for someone who has a history of trauma and therefore is in that state of chronic anxiety.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we find that people who um, suffer from trauma are just much more likely to have a negative emotional state that they seek to relieve through some
And
kind of substance use.
and with those negative emotional states, um, some of the physical manifestations like ulcers, ulcerative colitis, and different chronic issues that develop later in a boy's life could be the result of those unsettled uh, experiences as a young person, right?
That's a great point, Coach Mike, in the sense that you understand that if you're nervous for a long period of time, that oftentimes is associated with gut related problems. Your gut feels tense, you feel nervous. That
Mhm.
means that your stomach is secreting acids that over time are irritating to the stomach lining, other parts of your intestines. So things like ulcers, ulcerative colitis, chronic kind of gut related problems are often strongly contributed to by trauma and the chronic anxiety that
Yeah.
characterizes the experience of trauma.
And what you're saying doesn't necessarily mean that it only happens to boys, but boys are more susceptible because they're taught to tough it out and to avoid being vulnerable and to avoid, expressing pain or fear and any of those negative emotions. Correct, Dr.
Right.
Murphy?
One of the things that is true about any negative experience is that it can help if right at the beginning you do some talking about it. Somebody gives you comfort. Somebody allows you to hear what your thoughts and feelings are. Whether it's a parent figure or a coach or a friend, somebody allows you to express and process that negative emotion. And when you can do that, that reduces the anxiety and lowers the level of excitation in the gut or in the intestines. Therefore, it's less likely to cause damage to the person when you can express that negative emotion in a positive way, if you will, in an assertive way. You say, I don't like this. I don't feel good. I want to stop this. You take control of your life and you feel more assertive, and you can reduce the damaging properties of the traumatic experience.
And then it becomes a matter of time before we realize that our voice matters and that we are empowered to have more of what we want in our life and less of what we don't want.
Exactly. And one of the things that we see is that self-esteem and the capacity to avoid the negative effects of trauma are very strongly associated. So the more that you feel empowered to express yourself and to take action to affect your situation, if a situation is difficult and painful for you, to get yourself out of it or avoid it or minimize its effects, to generally take action to improve your situation, the more you feel empowered, that increases your self-esteem and lessens the probability that you're going to suffer the negative effects of trauma as a chronic experience. And the
Yeah.
problem is when a person does not feel empowered to take action to relieve their situation and improve their discomfort, then um, the negative effects of the trauma can become chronic. And that is what we define as post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Somebody feels like they have this negative process inside them, anxiety, fear, nervousness in the gut,
Mhm.
feeling like they're will have digestive problems, other similar kind of psychologically related, gut related problems. When they become deeply ingrained and habituated, that's what we call post-traumatic stress disorder, and really can be very lasting.
So if somebody would to come to you with uh, trauma related issues, post traumatic stress disorder, for example, one would think that in therapy they would be encouraged to talk about it, but that may not be the best approach, right?
Exactly. Research has shown that talking and talking and talking about trauma is not necessarily all that helpful because it reactivates the memory, brings it into the forefront again. The person re-experiences the nervousness and fear of that situation again, and it just reinforces it again. So the key to the treatment of trauma is to provide other tools that will help to relieve that level of anxiety. Something like meditation, exercise, and even psychotherapy, helpful forms of psychotherapy, uh, we'll talk about, called cognitive behavioral treatment, can really start to lessen the negative feeling that is characteristic of post-traumatic stress disorder. And when you learn to meditate and actually understand that you can be powerful in
Yeah.
that way, you can change how your gut feels through the
Mhm.
process of meditating over a period of time. And
Yeah.
so that really, really is helpful
So I have a
in,
question
yep.
for you about uh, a hypothetical situation, and we'll talk more about it when we come back from our commercial break. But I want to ask you what it would be like if I came into your office with post-traumatic stress disorder. But we'll talk about that when we come back. Thank you very much.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
And welcome back. So, Dr. Murphy, I have a question for you. If I were to come into your office with post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, what could I expect in the mode of in the way of treatment from you? What would I expect to hear from you?
Right. So what I would want to do first and foremost is to get to know you and to help you to get to the point where you feel like I understand your situation. So establishing the therapeutic relationship
Mhm.
is probably the primary task of
Yeah.
psychotherapy, and really is the beginning of really effective cognitive behavioral treatment, is
Mhm.
helping me to um, give you the feeling that I can be of service to you, that you believe that our intervention can result in positive change for you. So a big part of that is giving you the understanding that I really understand your
Mhm.
world. I
Mhm.
know where you came from. I know what your life course has been like. I know what your current situation is like, and you have a deep feeling that I'm with you and I'm your partner in this process. And therefore, you have a feeling, you have a good feeling that you have company, and you have company that is competent and is capable of helping you in the situation of distress that you bring into the therapy room. So
Right.
once that bond is established, it really significantly increases the probability that our contact will be effective in helping you with your problem. So that's one
So
of the reasons why I really tell people all the time to shop around for a therapist who you believe in. Because really, when you find a therapist who you believe in and you believe can be helpful to you, it really increases the probability that
right.
that relationship is going to achieve the objectives that you
So
want to
once
achieve.
we've established that relationship, and we know that it's going to work for each of us, what would I expect in the way of a dialogue from you? What what kind of things would you say to me as someone with PTSD?
Right.
What
Like what I don't want to do is just repeat, um, the talk about the actual traumatic
right?
events
So
over and
instead
over.
of that,
I mean, right, right. I don't want to do that because that's not particularly helpful. But what I do want to do is to actually give you support and engage in a practice with you that allows you to experience states of relaxation and calmness and security that actually change how you feel. So you have a positive experience that leads you to think, hey, I'm feeling better. This is actually being useful for me. I came into this room, I felt nervous. When I leave this room, I feel more empowered
yeah,
and I feel more calm. So I might do um, a guided visualization with somebody that is a positive experience, which helps them to feel like perhaps they're in a natural environment. They're feeling very calm. They're enjoying the beauty of the natural environment to give the person the feeling that they can actually change how they feel. So this is sort of the basis of cognitive behavioral treatment that we understand that feelings can follow thoughts and that
so
thoughts
with that
structuralize.
idea, with that idea, the our our feelings are produced by the things we think. Our thoughts produce our feelings. Um, would you engage in a conversation that would help them dissociate from the actual events and the trauma itself by engaging, in a conversation that is conducive to good feelings, comforting feelings, as a way of dissociating them?
Exactly. So when a person may characteristically be in a state of anxiety and stress, then once we engage in an interaction in which they actually can calm down, they find that in the therapy room, we're able to engage in an interaction. Sometimes this is what I will do hypnosis with people sometimes to actually help them to get into a mental state where they actually believe that they're becoming calmer and calmer and they're dealing with the negative aspects of the trauma in a way that is effective for them. They feel
Yeah,
like they're in charge, they have the power to adequately and competently manage the emotional effects of these negative experiences. And that
yeah,
can be done through relaxation training, meditation, exercise, creating a plan that puts the patient or client in charge of their experience in a way that they feel is effective. And that helps their mood to improve very markedly because they realize there is hope. Many people who have suffered trauma get into a situation that they feel is hopeless because they've had it for so long. So giving people a sense of hope uh, regarding change is just fantastic for them.
so with that newfound sense of hope, would you say that helping someone dissociate from it and then allowing them to experience something new in its place in NLP, we talk about changing the submodalities. What I mean by submodalities are, for example, if I told you to think about something that you like a bowl of ice cream, and ask you to tell me when you think about when you think about the bowl of ice cream, is it close to you or is it far away from you? That's a submodality of something that you like, submodality of an emotion. When you think about that bowl of ice cream, is it in color or is it in black and white? We can tell how closely connected they are to the trauma by the submodalities, by asking them to describe what they see in their mind or feel and judge the relationship that they have with it. As a way of dissociating them from that, we can change those submodalities. For example, if the ice cream that they really like is really close to them, we can ask them, okay, now imagine that ice cream far away from you, across the room, for example, and imagine it in black and white. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and how that works to help to calm a person down and help them to dissociate from the actual trauma when we come back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Segment. Okay, so we're going to welcome back. We're going to talk to Dr. Murphy a little bit more, making a shift into effective paths of healing. You know, the gold standard for trauma treatment includes therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, eye movement desensitization, and several other things. Neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy have also been helpful. But we want to hear from Dr. Murphy about some of these modalities and how they can actually help. So, Dr. Murphy, can you tell us a little bit about some more real examples where people have actually felt and experienced some real healing for PTSD?
Right. So one of the things we talked about before is how often trauma is associated with substance abuse. So people who experience the chronic anxiety that goes along with trauma, they've experienced some kind of terrible experience. It might be an auto accident, it may be participation in a situation of conflict, like they were a soldier in Iraq or somewhere else, Afghanistan, and they've experienced things that have left them in a state of chronic anxiety. They're much more likely, as we said before, to seek relief from that, momentary relief, through using a substance like alcohol, opioids, benzodiazepines, um, and those, of course, tend to become very addictive over time, negative consequences of that, and then people engage in criminal behavior sometimes in order to obtain the substances that they
Yeah.
feel they need to lessen their state of chronic anxiety. So over many thousands of interviews that I've engaged in jails and prisons and psychiatric facilities over decades of time, I've found that almost everybody in jail, in prison, has a substance abuse problem. So really, our jails and prisons are simply big detox and drug treatment programs and centers, because everybody who is there is somebody who has a dependency on alcohol or drugs. I can probably count on one hand the number of people over the many decades of time and thousands of interviews who don't have some kind of substance abuse related issue that has contributed to their finding themselves incarcerated. So one of the things that we seek to do certainly is to help people to have an experience, even within the incarcerated setting, where they improve their self-esteem. So they have a good feeling, they actually achieve something. So you've heard of so-called shock programs. These are special units within a correctional facility where a person has the opportunity to participate in classes, cognitive behavioral treatment that gives them information that helps them to understand the nature of addiction, how to handle interventions that will help them to feel better, that trains them actually in forms of self-relaxation, meditation, exercise, and even the process of marching. One of the things you may have heard about in jails and prisons, these so-called shock programs experience a lot of people marching together. Many people have found that to be extremely helpful to them, understanding they can work with others, they can engage in effective action,
Right.
and they can do things that are really take some learning and some skill,
Yeah.
and that improves their self-esteem.
I
And if
noticed
people
that
actually, go
in the
ahead.
juvenile facilities that I worked in paramilitary boot camps for young felons. And that was one of the most effective things about our program, is that they learned how to do things with precision. They learned that there was a reward system attached to accomplishing and making it through boot camp, for example, and then into finding a job, or something that they had to use their skills for. So I could totally relate to what you're saying, and it's a shame that in the juvenile camps nowadays, that's considered a form of abuse, because you have to be disciplined, and you have to have that kind of structure, and that kind of thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think that structure and discipline did a lot for them, did a lot for their sense of self-efficacy and their self-esteem. So what do you have to say about that, Doc?
Right, you're saying that the people you've experienced doing treatment with, as the people I have as well, have really gained some gratification over accomplishing something that they
Yeah.
believe is difficult. And that really is the only way that self-esteem is improved. When we do something, whether it's marching together with other people, whether it's making your bed properly, whether it's reciting some material that you were instructed to learn, and you do that successfully, that improves your self-esteem. And that is the fundamental uh, pathway to recovery, because it gives you the good feeling that you have accomplished something, and you feel empowered, you feel significant, you feel like you're able to handle the situations that you find yourself in, even if it involves uh, some difficult struggle. As human beings, we're made and designed to do hard things. We're designed to struggle to achieve the objectives that we want to achieve in order to survive and to care for our loved ones and to take care of ourselves most fundamentally. So when we do those things successfully, that improves our self-esteem. That literally changes the gut processing in the stomach and in the intestines so that we start to calm down and feel better. And the biochemistry of our body alters in a way that helps us to learn how to soothe ourselves. And when you think about soothing a baby or soothing any living being, they calm down. And learning to calm down is a deeply encoded, gustatory kind of gut level experience that helps the person to feel better deep down within themselves. And when we do that, we realize, hey, I can do this for myself. I can be independent. I can deal with problems successfully. And that is the key to success in any endeavor that we want to engage in life. And we've both seen that, you know, demonstrated many times in the treatment facilities where we've worked.
Yeah. So nowadays, it almost sounds as if the jails and prisons and institutions are finally able to have an impact because of the proximity. I mean, they're virtually sitting ducks in that facility. But what about the community at large? What about the community of people that are not in prison that have experienced some kind of trauma? I know that in many of the clients that I've worked with, I've used timeline therapies that allows them to reframe and release some of those negative emotions that are linked to the traumatic events that they experienced. And by doing that, they're able to significantly alleviate those symptoms. And it helps them to process and reinterpret the past by reframing the meaning of all of it and the answer to the question, why me? Why did it happen to me? Can you talk a little bit about how a person can empower themselves by realizing that if they were able to survive and still be able to tell the tale, that they've had to gain some kind of character building, some kind of reinforcement to their thought process, and something that has actually made them stronger instead of chronically debilitating. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. So it really is the case, as you say, that almost any experience that you do that is successful will serve some purpose in terms of relieving the negative effects of trauma. There's a great writer around now called Gabor Mate,
Yeah.
who's written. There's a number of books. One is The Body Keeps the Score, and the books by Gabor Mate really point out how you need to use a wide variety of interventions in order to really effectively deal with trauma. It can be education, certainly is one, reading about trauma, reading about the effects of trauma. Another one is meditation, self-relaxation skills, exercise. One of the things that happens probably too frequently on the outpatient side is that people think that there will be a pill or a medication that will solve the problem for them. And unfortunately, that really is, generally speaking, in my experience at least, not the case. There is
Right.
no pill or medication that is going to resolve trauma. It really is a deep psychological and emotional experience that requires um, uh, ongoing contact with another human being and and the associated experiences that help you to learn how to relax and how to be calm and how to process these negative emotions so that you can literally transform them into a positive feeling yourself over time. And that's tremendously empowering for the person. And they actually realize that they are not a prisoner of this negative past event that happened to them.
That idea of providing that kind of hope that, they don't have to live and relive that trauma, and that there's hope on the other side, is a great place for us to get back to. We're going to go for a commercial break and talk more about what it's like on the other side after we've received some kind of helpful treatment. Don't go away.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
So one of the things that we can talk about is, just to summarize this all again, is to emphasize the point that negative experiences in life are really not avoidable. And so therefore, we can think about trauma and the existence of trauma as a continuum. I mean, all of us have negative experiences in life. And the question is how we manage them and how effectively we manage them, and whether we're able to reach out for the supportive services that we need in order to learn how to deal with those negative experiences and their effects in a way that really works for us and helps us to thrive in life. So those are the things that we're focusing now, is how this can all be successful. There's a real focus now on something called positive psychology. So positive psychology is really focusing, rather than focusing on the problem, focusing on interventions and actions that contribute to a more positive sense of self and more pleasant experiences. And so that really is anything that we do that helps us to enjoy our lives. So clearly that, a big part of treating trauma really effectively is to help the person come up with activities that they find gratifying for themselves and rewarding. Work is often very rewarding. You may volunteer at a homeless shelter. You may be a coach of an athletic team. You may be someone who participates in your local religious services in some way. So all those experiences give you a sense of meaning, and they are forms of activity that you can engage in that really raise your level of mood and empower you to feel like you can help your life to be better. And those are things. There are many examples of people who have overcome tremendous adversity. One of the things about negative experiences is that they teach us a lot. So many of the people who have experienced trauma, who have experienced suffering, are the wisest people that we know. And we really gain a lot from their ability to uh, be models of perseverance and models of recovery.
Yeah.
You know, group treatment such as Alcoholics Anonymous, that has been so effective for millions of people who get together with others, offer support, and you really get to spend time with people who have faced the same problems you have and have overcome them successfully and really lived very positive and meaningful lives. So those are some examples that people can do, and how trauma can actually be changed. Like one of the teachers who I worked with in a jail or prison said, we just have to get some lemonade out of those lemons. And that metaphor of sort of, hey, this is a negative experience, but we're going to really get something positive out of it is a just a great thing. And that's the transformative power of being able to deal with trauma through positive psychology, through cognitive behavioral treatment, through exercise, through meditation, and many of the interventions that we can use to actually go through that negative experience and come out the other end stronger and wiser and more capable human beings.
Yeah, it's amazing how we equate success with living an easy life, but in fact, the most successful people, some people that we've grown to love and admire, athletes like Terry Crews, for example, NFL player who became well, he's on AGT, America's Got Talent host, and several other people that have overcome racism, for example, sexual abuse, and drug abuse, and different types of things, but have actually gone to the other side where they're actually able to benefit from what they learned in the experience, and the um, I don't know, the conditioning, if you will, that those challenges have brought to their lives. So those men are examples of a transformation that's possible for everyone. Treatment works, especially when it's trauma informed and when it's provided by culturally sensitive and it's tailored to the unique needs of young men and boys. So I want to thank you, Dr. Murphy, for being with me on this, and uh, I'm really glad that we're able to work together. I want to give people a chance to reach out to you and give them my information so that they can feel free to give us a call and ask for any kind of guidance. But go ahead and let them know, Dr. Murphy, how they can reach you.
I have a book that's called Opioid Odyssey. It's available on Amazon. It's just kind of a fun read, if you will, about the positive aspects of recovery and people who have really succeeded in going through negative experiences and then having very rewarding lives. Also, I have a website, psychologicalinvestigations.com, where people can find out how to contact me. I'd love to hear from you, and I really appreciate your attention and the opportunity to share, the positive aspects of this struggle and
Thank you.
how important this is for all of us.
Yes, thank you very much. And also, if you ever want to reach out, you can reach me at www.olcp.life, Optimal Life Coaching and Practices. I have a free consultation if you ever want to give us a call, spend an hour, and we'll find out what's best for you. If none of us can help you, we can certainly find somebody that can help. Thank you for being with us today. Stay with us. Come back next week, 11 a.m. Don't forget to hit the like button at the bottom of your screen, subscribe, like us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
This has been Snippets of Wisdom with hosts Mike Carell and Dr. Michael J. Murphy. Tune in and learn about the primary issues facing our society today and find the best chance of securing a stable and prosperous future. Snippets of Wisdom will enrich your life and the lives of all of your loved ones.